Tim, we're going to have a look at the monument now and you're going to explain the history.
Thanks, Stephen. Yeah, we're right in the middle of the square in Galbally now. It was under one of the Plans village. There was an old landlord called Lowe, and they laid out the village roughly in the form of the square. And we're looking at the monument now, the War of Independence Memorial Monument in the middle of the square, which is very historical importance locally. In fact, another project we have at the moment is describing the involvement of a local people involved in the War of Independence, which will be published as a booklet or a book in the future. Stephen is looking now down towards the south, with the Galties are on the distance in the south, and the tall 3-storey buildings running up along on the southern end of the village. The one in green, this is the one in green, and was acted as a hospice during the famine. It was a poorhouse erected by the British. One of them that was erected out in a poor rural village at the time. Most of them were in towns, so that a lot of people actually died in that house during the famine and were buried in a mass grave locally. So I had the privilege of telling the American ambassador Jean Kennedy Smith one day here in the village, thanking her for what the American people and Americans did for all the people that had to leave Ireland and go to America.
Just over there then, Tim, yeah?
Yeah, that's particularly the greenhouse. There was a second door. Someone asked me, was there a second door? There was a second door, but it was closed up. The John Scanlon, of course, we won't go into the details of it now, but he'll be coming into the book about the War of Independence. His whole family was involved highly in the War of Independence. And on the western side then, you have a row of houses. In fact, at one stage, practically all the houses in the village had a shop of some description, grocery shop or drapery shop or a pub or whatever. And you can see the signs over a lot of kept the old shop signs in the village. In fact, none of them have been removed since the Tidy Towns got involved. That's the northern end of the village now that Stephen is looking at. The one on the very end, the yellow and the red, is quite old. It was older than a lot of the rest of them, and it was used at the back by Bion Coney's coaches and for keeping the horses and the carriages and so forth there on their way from Limerick or going to Clonmel or whatever they were going that time. He's looking now at the eastern end of the village, and this is more or less where most of the commercial premises are now. You have hairdressers and...
There used to be a lounge in there before, Tim.
There used to be a lounge, yeah, where the green and yellow
lounge. Was it?
That's yeah.
Johnny Wallace?
Just Johnny Wallace had a pub there, and Joss O'Brien had it for a short while.
Barry's pub, do you remember that?
It was Barry's pub, yeah, and it was Richardson's even before that.
Yeah.
And down on the left we had a garage and
But I'd be right in saying, Tim, in relation to the history of the buildings and all of that, there was 8 pubs here at one stage.
Right.
Now we're down to what? 2? Maybe 3?
Well, there's actually only 2 operating. There's one that talks about one opening again, but it hasn't happened yet anyhow. So, but the thing is that what we're very proud of is that we have a sustainable village. We have kept our post office. We have kept a spang new Daybreak supermarket business, which supplies practically everything we want. And just we're facing across the village now. You'll see the funeral home. At one stage, we were afraid that Henry Fraser was going to retire, that we'd lose the funeral home. But now it has developed a bit, and so we have 2 hairdressers. We have a health clinic. We have practically everything that you want in the village. In other words, you could survive now without a care. And because myself, I actually live in the middle of the village, and there's huge advantages when you get on a bit in years, because of the friendship of the people. A number of people have keys of other people's house, especially people living on their own. And if they're in trouble, all they do is to give a ring and they'll have help straight away.
But Tim, how important is it to have a shop like Daybreak Cummins here?
You cannot describe how important it is, Stephen. And I noticed that there's an awful lot of people, would say people, men that didn't get married, and bachelors and all sorts of those people around. You can get supplied with practically anything in the shop. Now, you might have to go to Mitchelstown on a Thursday on the road link bus to get some drapery or shoes or something like that, but anything that's really practical, everyday thing is. Stephen is just moving down now out of the south east corner of the village, and you can see the Galties again prominent and dominating into the village with a lovely row of trees on the left hand side. These were put under an order not to be knocked a lot of number of years ago, and you still have some of the houses on the right hand side, the old post office with the old moulding and things kept, which was one of the things the tidy towns were important, that you kept the character.
That was Kylie's, wasn't it? The post
yeah,
office?
it was Kylie's at the post office, Peggy Kylie.
There was a phone box just here where the pole
there
is,
was,
the black
you're right,
pole.
there was a phone box just there. No, it's the old type phone box. But of course,
all the phone boxes are
all
thing
the
in the
phone
past
boxes
now.
are gone now because there's all the mobiles and so forth.
So just right here, if I'm right in saying it, there was a phone box just here near that black pole.
There was probably where the I'd say the cables are under the
Correct.
phone cables are probably under those steel
So
plates
that was
there.
the old post office.
Yeah, we have photographs of that taken around in the book that we're publishing, or the book. An uncle of mine had kept all photographs, took an awful lot of photographs, and we have all those photographs. They're all 100 years old now, of historic interest and still interest to an awful lot of people and to the history of the village.
Tim, talk to me more about this beautiful stone wall. It's running.
This is
really
the stone wall, and actually all around the village, and actually that's the one facing us over at the end of the car park is quite an old stone wall. It's there from the time the church was built, and we just tidied it up a bit and whatnot.
So that's really the Galbally Fitzgerald's, isn't it?
That's right, yeah, and we inherited that. But this one here, there was a round concrete top on it, and we removed the concrete top off the top of it and put those blocks called castellated top on it to make it look more better and we're all around. On our trip around, we could have pointed out a lot more things that the tidy towns was involved in, and yeah, we were going around up at the graveyard. Maybe it was the heat, or maybe it was the few years that's all this. Something went out of our head. We wanted to mention especially Sarah McCutcheon, the archaeologist, who has been a tremendous help. She's with the Limerick County Council and has tremendous work. And the money that has come from central government, we're delighted with it. It's a project that is well worthwhile and will dare forever, and will link back to us, back into the history of the village. The other thing is, in the middle of the square, you'll notice that there's no poles. The first project we did when we won the Tidy Towns was to underground all the electric cables in the square. So if you look at the square, all in front of the buildings, anybody is doing repair to buildings now, they don't have to worry about the electric cables, because they're all underground. And that's the first pole that the cables will come back up, and if we had enough money, we'd have continued.
From overhead and buried
they're all
underground
around the village.
The stone wall is absolutely fabulous. Now, folks,
you're looking out across. We're looking directly from the front of the church. We're looking directly east again, and you have the what was known as the glebe. On the far side of the trees above, there was an old house there. It was called the glebe house, and it was known as one of those ballrooms of romance. I think they used to have dances there on a Sunday and whatnot, but that has all gone now because of the time. We mentioned about the gravel pit that was up there.
Now, there was a handball alley just up there.
There's a handball alley. Actually, it's a handball alley. If you go over a small bit here, Stephen, and you might catch under the eaves of the tall building, we have swifts, birds, nesting, and the lads in the men's shed made the boxes there under the roof. And this morning, they come at different times during. They mightn't appear now again till about 7 or 8 o'clock tonight. That's not one of them actually, but they go away for the day. They're nesting in under the eaves. And actually around the village as well, we have house martins, house swallows, and there's 3 or 4 new nests around the village this year. But the building on the left-hand side of the main one is the roof of an indoor handball alley. And it's a championship handball alley. It's indoor.
That was an old 60 by 30 with no roof on it many years ago.
Oh, that's right. It was built again, built with
Yeah.
community effort and whatnot. And at the back out there is the community field where you have the
That's-
children's playground, and
That's just meeting the primary school.
that's meeting the primary school from the back, and they have the children's playground there, which is a fantastic facility.
So Tim, we're going to sign it off here now from the village of Galbally, and again, it's been a fantastic tour around. Well done, and thank you again for
And thank you
facilitating it.
especially, Stephen. I'm delighted, and I'm delighted for you, as I say, going back to your mother and your father, tis bringing back memories as well. And we always think about them ourselves in the tidy towns. So it's great that you're able to help out a bit now as well, and hopefully that people will see this and get an interest. Now, we might at some stage go more into the history of the place, but this is more or less an introduction for a short introduction of just the trips around the village. But there's a lot more history involved. And thank you very much. And we're looking down at the bottom of the town, down this way, the business end of the village, if you like, the post office and the daybreak and the pub and whatnot, and the hairdressers and that. So we're delighted with the village, the way it's been kept. You'll notice that a lot of the houses have been painted bright colours, and sometimes you get a planned colour scheme well done by a professional. We did at the very beginning, but most of the time we allowed people to have their own ideas and their own private property, and they're entitled to their own ideas as well. So most of the time we left them built away and built the colour, whatever colour they wanted themselves. If we're asked for advice, we'll give it. That's it.
Tim, well done again.
And thank you very much, Stephen. It was a pleasure. And we're lucky with the weather as well.